All right, let's take a look at the actual connector code for this template thing. All right, so here's the connector. This is what OIM is going to call internally from the adapters and tasks and whatnot. So the schema is basically the attributes that are in your model. So that's what this does. It gets all the attributes from the model that the model supports, and that's the schema. And then, the connector gets called for create, delete, update, and roll, change, and roll, add, and delete. So what happens here is the user service is really what's doing everything. So you would create a user service, pass it the connection info, and then the user service is mapped to each of these. So when the create gets called, this will call the create user on the user service. And then there's a delete user, which does the same thing. We get a user service. First thing we do is get rid of all the user's roles, and then we delete the user, so it matches delete. And now we have update, so we have an update user. And we have execute query, which runs the recons. So the filter is not implemented. You'd have to implement that yourself based on how you're reading your target system. And then this code here again uses the target user service to actually run the query and return all the connector objects. So this is going to get a list of all of your target user objects, convert them to ICF connector objects, and return them back to OIM so it can issue recon events. And that's pretty much all this does here. So essentially what you have to do is you would have your own target user service that implements the same methods that's being called. I guess an interface that can implement would be nice. I can work on that. So you basically implement the methods that are in here. Here's your model. You can update the model as needed. These are the fields that the model supports. This is the name attribute, and this is the UID attribute. Now this connector will run immediately. You can import that XML, deploy this code, and run it, and it'll work in OIM. The users are all kept in memory. So this is basically acting as like the JDBC layer in a sense. So when it starts up, it'll load a couple of default users so that you can run the recon. These users happen to be login IDs of users that I have in my test system. So you'd put in whatever you want here. And then this you really wouldn't use for real. This would be replaced with your calls to an actual database or something. The code that you want to, this is where all the work gets done here. So essentially you would replace this with your target system code and how to connect to it and disconnect from it and read the records and whatnot. Okay, and so that's pretty much how this works. It's, so you can have a starter one that actually works. And if you want to just deploy it, you can watch the logs and get an idea of what's happening while this code is running and you're in OIM creating users. Okay, we're going to do that so you can see it.